All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Legacy Predacon Sandstorm. Yeah, this is another one from that weird sort of like subwave of Legacy that is exclusive to Walmart. There's only 3 figures in it. There's Sandstorm, there's a Buzzsaw, who I looked at a couple days ago, and there's Night Prowler, who I decided not to pick up. But yeah, here we have Sandstorm here. He is a repaint and slight remold of our Kingdom Scorponok mold, and yeah, he looks really nice in his Scorpion mode. Now, if you're unfamiliar with who Sandstorm is as a character, he was originally a repaint of Beast Force Scorponok, but he was actually a BotCon exclusive, so that's why he wasn't in the main sort of toy line if you're unfamiliar with him. And yeah, in terms of the accuracy to the original figure, there are some slight color deviations. I mean, like the orange is a little bit more red. Like the original Sandstorm had his main orange was like more like this kind of like lighter orange, but that's not too big a deal. Likewise, the tan is a little bit darker, a little bit more saturated. And again, I don't think that changes the look overall. The purple, however, on the original Sandstorm, like, you might not even immediately characterize it as purple. His legs and stinger are purple, but they're much more of like a muted, really, really dark purple that looks more just like a slight purpley gray. Whereas with this figure, they've really decided to go way more like full-on royal saturated purple. And I don't think it looks bad in and of itself, but it does kind of stand out in a way that kind of like reshapes the color scheme of the figure compared to the original BotCon version, just because like if you're really looking at that original Sandstorm, like you might not even totally notice the purple. Like it's kind of like it's like an accented color and it's not very saturated. Whereas with him, it's kind of a big feature. Like the purple really stands out, I guess is what I'm saying. And, I like the shade of purple. I do. I just don't think it works that well for like recreating that color scheme. It looks fine in and of itself. Like I said, it's just not quite accurate to the purple that the original figure had. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, first of all, we've got our standard size comparison. Here he is with Kingdom's Sideswipe. Here he is with his wave mate, Buzzsaw there. Here he is with the original Kingdom Scorponok, just so you can see how the different color schemes work out there. And I don't have an original Sandstorm, but here he is with the reissue of Beast Wars Scorponok, just so you can see how the proportions are different there. Obviously, no color comparisons here, but that's what they look like together. Now, in terms of articulation for his Scorpion mode, it's, the exact same as Scorponok. The only molding difference is his head in robot mode. So, pretty much if you have this figure, you know exactly what you're getting with this figure. The arms here, they can kind of swivel up and down like this and swivel in and out because they're just going to be the robot mode arms. They've got an elbow here, a swivel right here, a swivel right here. The claws can obviously open, showing off the little Cyber Bee there and his little missiles, which obviously are visible in either mode. Here, we'll take out the Cyber Bee here too because he's got some paint on him, so he looks a little bit different. But yeah, looks pretty cool. The legs, he does that thing that a lot of like earlier Beast Wars figures do, but some newer ones as well, is that like he's not actually standing on his legs. You're just putting him on the ground and then kind of bringing the legs down to meet the ground, which is fine. I think for a creature like a Scorpion, to have it kind of low down to the ground like that, like unless they were going to make the ball joints really tight, like I think that oh my gosh, words, that look works well enough. But yeah, in terms of articulation, you can raise up obviously all the legs here. The middle two are a conjoined section, so the ball joint is actually in the middle here, just how it works for transformation. But the rest are just posable at the knees, and then you could bring the whole thing up if you wanted to. But this top section is all one piece, and then the tail here can hinge back and forth here, and then it's got a little ball joint on the stinger itself here. You can like bring it forward like this, but then you're unpegging the foot from there, and then you can bring the foot up to kind of meet it, but you know, you're doing like two separate bits there. But if you want to pose him with the tail, you know, jutted forward, then that is an option. But yeah, otherwise I really like his Scorpion mode. It has kind of like more realistic colors, asterisks, than Scorponok does. Like, I love the sort of like sand scorpion color scheme, and there's some really nice sort of like subtle variation in there that I'm pretty sure is a little bit of paintwork. It's really hard to tell if it's just the way the plastic catches the light, or if it actually is a little bit darker around the edges here. If it's there, it's subtle. But yeah, no, other than the purple, I think he makes for a nice kind of more realistic looking scorpion color scheme. The purple is the one thing that kind of makes it stand out, and not in a great way. And I really like purple, so you have to, I don't know, it has to be a very specific scenario for me to say, like, no, I'd actually prefer a less vibrant purple, because purple's one of my favorite colors. But yeah, in terms of transformation, obviously he's the exact same as Scorponok. First, you want to start off here by just unfolding this leg from the back of the tail here and bringing that up a little bit. And then the other leg folds down from underneath, and then you can bring this whole section out. It's on this little armature here. Then you want to fold this foot forward, fold this foot forward, and then this is the difference between the 2 feet there, so you know which one to put in the tail for transformation. The one that makes like an L shape with the heel goes in the tail, and the one that just sits totally flat goes underneath. And then you want to rotate the legs forward, and then rotate the whole waist forward. Then for the scorpion head here, you want to fold it back like this, and then take the scorpion head and fold it into this section of the body here. Now, when you're going back to scorpion mode, this is a real pain, like to actually get your finger in there and grab the scorpion head. And like, I don't have particularly meaty fingers, so like, I'm sure this would be no problem for like a little kid, but like, for most collectors, I feel like I've got fairly smaller than average hands, and you know, even it's a kind of a pain sometimes for me. So that's not super fantastic in terms of like clearance. I wish this folded back a little bit more, but it is possible, obviously. And then you just want to fold that up against the back here. Then you want to take his arms here and just fold them down to the side a little bit, just to make room to fold up the head there. And then the whole waist section here will kind of double hinge and click into place there, and then you can fold the chest piece back in together. Then you want to take the scorpion legs and fold them up against the body. Take the double section here with the 2 legs, and you want to fold it in like that, and you kind of want to interlock them so they're kind of sitting like that on his back, and then take these top legs and then interlock those as well with the rest of the legs. And then you want to bring this whole section up with the tail and just fold it over those, and then these last 2 legs will kind of come up and sit alongside it. I usually use like this little groove right here. His feet can usually kind of like sit along that as just like a, you know, for a place to put it, really, but you know, they pretty much just sit on the back here. And then you want to bring his arms down the rest of the way and adjust them at the elbow and rotate them forward, and there you have Sandstorm in his robot mode. And yeah, he looks pretty cool. You've got the new head sculpt here, which we'll show off with some comparisons later, but this is another one of those more like you know, with a lot of the original Beast Wars toy line, they had the mutant heads and they had the regular robot mode heads. Now the, you know, Scorponok show model used the robot head, but this is much more based on the mutant mask, which is definitely cool to see here. In terms of articulation, obviously he's the exact same as the original Kingdom Scorponok. The head is on a ball joint here. It can tilt up a little bit, but mostly it's just for rotation there. The scorpion tail can kind of jut forward, and this is obviously still on a ball joint. The shoulders are on swivels here, and then a hinge out to the side. It's got a bicep swivel there, maybe a degree under 90 of bend at the elbow, has a wrist swivel, and then obviously the claws can still open. And the missiles and the Cyber Bee are obviously removable. He's got a waist swivel, but it's like pretty limited with the way things are kind of clashing into each other back here. Like you can get about that much if you kind of bend this up a little bit more, but even that is not a ton. The hips can go forward, back not too much before they start bumping into stuff. Out to the side, only about that much. Thigh swivel, nice deep knee bend, which is nice. ankle tilts, and then this ankle can tilt forward. This ankle can tilt forward, but it doesn't bring the heel with it, so it doesn't really act in the same way as like a backwards ankle tilt. If anything, it would just act, I don't know. You can't really use this for much. But yeah, pretty decent articulation. In terms of size comparisons, for that standard one, here he is again with Kingdom Sideswipe. So you can see, just like Scorponok, he's a pretty short deluxe there at the top of the head. There are some things you can do about that, which I'll get into in a bit, but as is, very short. Here he is again with his Wavemate, with Buzzsaw. Here he is again with Kingdom Scorponok, just so you can see the differences there, and the head sculpt difference there, obviously much more based on the robot mode head, and this one is more based on the mutant mask, but they look pretty cool together. I will say on him, for whatever reason, his chest plate doesn't want to stay together quite as well as his did. Not really sure why that is, but it is something that I noticed. And then for the really fun comparison, here he is again with the reissue of Beast Wars Scorponok, so you can see the head sculpt there and how good of a recreation that is. Like, it's pretty much spot on, just a slightly scaled down version without the crack down the middle. And yeah, I think that's a pretty successful head sculpt there. I think that it definitely captures the look of that original toy, which is nice. Now, so there's been a lot of complaints, not really about him as much, but more specifically about Scorponok since he's been out, about like how he's really kind of short and stumpy, and it kind of looks like his body just like cuts off down the middle here, and his legs could be a little bit longer on the upper part. My biggest complaint, which I haven't seen as many people talk about, but my biggest complaint is really like in the show, Scorponok was like so much of a hunchback. So like, you can kind of hunch him over a little bit and that helps a little, but doesn't really look great. But what you can do with both of these guys, and like, there are upgrade kits that kind of like add a lower midriff section here and like add thigh extensions and stuff like that. But if you don't want to get that, because like some of those, you can't like transform it normally with those things attached, what you can do with these guys, and I'll show it off of him because it's actually, his review, is if you undo the chest here and you just undo that clip where the waist clips in, and you just close this back up, what you can do is kind of bring it down like this, which already helps his height a little bit. It definitely means he's got a bit of a gap down here, and it's a little a little floppy, but it does also give him a bit of like an ab crunch joint that you can bring in. And then because the head has that clearance to kind of bend backwards, just make it a slight hunchback. And, it's not perfect, but I think proportionally that helps a lot in making Scorponok look a little bit more like his character model, and B, making them both look a little bit less, like stumpy and cut off in the torso. Like, there's definitely still like a gap there where it feels like there should be something filling it in. But if you're looking at it from a little bit from above, I think that proportionally that helps a lot. Just like looking at the two of them as is, like if you stand him up straight and put him next to him, it's just kind of like, yeah, I think that, he looks a little bit less like a little kid compared to this guy. And, I think it works even better for Scorponok just because his head gets a little bit more tilt backwards just because of the way it's shaped. And again, Scorponok is really the one who is more associated with that sort of like hunchback look. But, it's something that you can do that like just slightly adjusts the kind of look of it to make it look a little bit better, in my opinion, without having to get an upgrade kit. Obviously, if you want it to look the best, there are some good upgrade kits. I don't know if there are any that like, don't mess with the transformation. Like, I've seen some ones that mean you have to like transform the legs differently. And like, I really like the Scorpion mode, so I wouldn't want to mess with the Scorpion mode, but this is at least something that you can do to, fix the robot mode at least slightly without, messing with the alt mode at all. I think that looks better. I mean, on camera right here, you can definitely see the gap a lot more obviously, but when you're looking at it from any natural angle, like, a person playing with a toy, you're looking at it from up here, in which you can't really notice that gap quite as much. So I don't know. That's just a little thing that I do, but to each his own. But yeah, no, he's a pretty nice figure. I mean, they're not reinventing the wheel here a whole lot. Like, it's pretty much just the exact same figure as Kingdom Scorponok, just with that new head sculpt. Which, again, I appreciate all of the new. God, jeez. Having a hard time clipping him in place there. I'm appreciating all the new kind of alt head sculpts that they're using on different figures. I think that they're going to use this head sculpt again. We've seen leaked listings of a buzzworthy Bumblebee 4-pack that has a Toy Colors Scorponok in it. So I assume that they're going to use this head sculpt again, but really either one would work just as well. But they're going to do like the original Toy Colors with like the mostly black body. But yeah, I don't know. If it's in a 4-pack with other figures that I want, then I might end up picking that up, but otherwise I probably wouldn't go out of my way to get it. But yeah, no, this is a pretty nice little figure, all things considered. I do like the color scheme. I do wish the purple was a little bit more muted, but otherwise I really like the shade of tan that they use. If they're using some kind of extra paint on here, or if it's just the way the plastic catches the light, I think it looks really good in both modes. The orange is maybe a little bit darker than it used to be, but that's okay. I think it doesn't stand out too bad. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to them. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Legacy Predacon Sandstorm.